person with 5 had 5 more, the person with 2 had 2 more. The person with 1 decided to bet. It also reminds me of the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle, where 80% of the workforce, for instance, will do 20% of the job, and 20% of the workforce will do 80% of the job. Why are places like Puerto Rico, that have some interesting affiliations with the United States, not a state of the United States? I don't know what you guys think. The British also have the British Virgin Islands. They also have the Falkland Islands, which they have contested with Argentina. Can you imagine how far away the Falkland Islands is from the United Kingdom, and yet it's a United Kingdom territory? Interesting, isn't it? Very, very interesting. This is Africa, the cradle of mankind's birth, where powerful kingdoms arose with stories of worth. A youth-filled land, the youngest population, with diamonds and cocoa from its fertile foundation, exemplary leaders, their legacy told. Nkrumah, Mandela, their spirits bold. From Johnson Sirleaf's Liberia, where freedom lies, and her first female leader, so wise. Let courage and dreams unite as one for a brighter tomorrow, where greatness is spawned. In this beautiful, colorful, and friendly domain, greatness awaits, where hopes shall not wane, where tales of triumph weave a tapestry. Welcome to Today in African History. Pictured here is U.S. Senator from South Carolina, Timothy Eugene Scott, who was born on this day in 1965. He is the first Black Republican elected to the Senate from the South since Senator Blanche Kelso Bruce served in that body representing Mississippi from 1876 to 1881. He is also the first Black Republican senator elected since Edward Brooke represented Massachusetts in that body in the 1960s and in the early 1970s. Before his appointment to the Senate post on the 17th of December 2012, Scott was a congressman representing South Carolina's 1st Congressional District. Elected during the 2010 midterm elections, he was also the first Black Republican elected to the House of Representatives from South Carolina since George Washington Murray, who served in Congress from 1896 to 1897. Tim Scott graduated from Charleston Southern University with a Bachelor of Sciences degree in Political Science in 1988. He began his professional life selling insurance door to door. Over the years, the business, Tim Scott Allstate Insurance, developed into a highly successful company. Scott is also partner in the Pathway Real Estate Group. In 1995, Scott was elected to the Charleston County Council, becoming, again, the first Black Republican to hold a countrywide elected office since Reconstruction. He served on the council for 13 years, rising to the position of council chair in 2008. So this is a man of many firsts. His name again is Timothy Eugene Scott, who was born on this day in 1965, U.S. Senator from South Carolina. History maker. When people are good in one area, they say how you do one thing is how you do everything. I have a slight variant of that saying, is how you do one thing is how you do most things. Now, it's not a surprise that he has made his name in other areas. He's the first this and first that. That is just one person. It shouldn't really come as a surprise. You would think, okay, there's a widespread of people who have the potential of becoming the first in this. What are the chances that one man would hold the first position or make history in not just one area, but in 2 or 3 different areas? There is a parable, I think it's a parable of the talents, where one person is given 1 talent and he or she buries that talent. The person who was given 2 planted the seed or the talent and it grew, it doubled. The one who had 5 also planted or invested his seed or his investment or his money, and it grew as well. So the person with 5 had 5 more, the person with 2 had 2 more. The person with 1 decided to bury the only one he or she had. So that's an example or a good analogy of this guy pictured here, whose name again is Timothy Eugene Scott. It's a lesson. It also reminds me of the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle, where 80% of the workforce, for instance, will do 20% of the job, and 20% of the workforce will do 80% of the job. That is just how life is, And think about the bell curve. If you haven't heard about the bell curve, do your research about the bell curve as well. If you've been to, say, university, for instance, I was in a university where during graduation, your name is read out and whether you had a first class or a second upper or a second lower or third class. The bell curve is consistent. Those who have a third class and those who have a first class are about the same in number. Those who have a second upper and those who have a first class, the second upper tends to be the middle. So most people will come out with a second upper. So you have, again, I'm going to rephrase this now or correct what I've just said. So you've got the first class, you've got the 2-1, you've got the 2-2, third class, and a pass. So there are 5 categories. Third class and first class, about the same number. Pass and first class, about the same number. Third class and second class upper, about the same. Okay, so stay with me on this. So I've just said third class and second class upper, about the same number. Then what you've got left is the middle, which is second class lower, which probably 50% of all graduates in any university across the world would fall. It's the same thing with life as well. It's the same thing when managing people. It's the same thing with intelligence across races as well. You would find the same pattern repeating itself when it comes to management of people or when it comes to academic pursuits as well and academic success. Life success as well. You find that 95% of people in the world own 5% of the resources, and 5% of people in the world would own 95% of the resources in the world. It's still the same thing, similar, the same Pareto principle. 20% owning 80% and 80% doing most of the work, doing 20% of the work, 20% doing 80% of the work. Okay, so if you're a manager, you would know that this pattern plays out in organizations all over the world. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Okay, guys, let's move on to the next person or the next event of note on this day. The next person of repute today is this lady pictured here. Her name is Donna Marie Christian-Christensen, a non-voting delegate from the United States Virgin Islands to the United States House of Representatives. She was born on this day in Teaneck, Monmouth County, New Jersey. The year was 1945, to the late Judge Almaric Christian and Virginia Sterling Christian. Christensen attended St. Mary's College in Notre Dame, Indiana, where she received her Bachelor of Science degree in 1966. She then earned her Doctor of Medicine degree, so MD degree, from George Washington University School of Medicine in Washington, D.C. The year was 1970. Christensen began her medical career in the United States Virgin Islands in 1975 as an emergency room physician at at St. Croix Hospital. Christensen also entered Virgin Island politics. As a member of the Democratic Party of the Virgin Islands, she has served as Democratic National Committee woman, member of the Democratic Territorial Committee, and delegate to all the Democratic conventions in 1984, 1988, and 1992. Christensen was also elected to the Virgin Islands Board of Education in 1984 and served for 2 years. She served as a member of the Virgin Islands Status Commission from 1988 to 1992. In 1996, Christensen was elected as the non-voting delegate from the Virgin Islands in the United States Congress. Despite her non-voting status, she serves on various House committees, including the Committee on Natural Resources and the Committee on Homeland Security. She also chairs the Natural Resources Subcommittee on Insular Affairs. So again, Donna Marie Christian-Christensen, born on this day in 1945, the non-voting delegate from the United States Virgin Islands to the United States House of Representatives. She was born in Teaneck, Monmouth County, New Jersey. Now, this is an interesting bio, which has revealed something about America. This is the United States Virgin Islands. It's not one of the states of the United States, but yet it's the United States Virgin Islands. You've also got the British Virgin Islands. I wonder why the United States Virgin Island isn't a state of the United States. What has stopped it from being a state of the United States? The UK Virgin Islands is understandable, not being part of the UK, technically part of the UK, because it's so far away from the UK, a lot further away than the United States Virgin Islands. I wonder why. Why are places like Puerto Rico that have some interesting affiliations with the United States not a state of the United States? I don't know what you guys think. If you know about United States politics and history and so on and so forth, just drop your comments in the comment section as to why Puerto Rico is not part of the United States, why the US Virgin Islands is not part of the United States. I'm sure the United States has some other territories around the world that's not part of the United States, not considered as one of the states of the United States. So very interesting, very interesting. Like I said, the British also have the British Virgin Islands. They also have the Falkland Islands, which they have contested with Argentina. Can you imagine how far away the Falkland Islands is from the United Kingdom, and yet it's a United Kingdom territory? Interesting, isn't it? Very, very interesting. Last but not least, now known as Clark Atlanta University, but this was not always the case. It was originally known as Atlanta University, and this was the day it was founded in 1865. So September 19, 1865, Atlanta University was founded as the first historically black college and university, also known as an HBCU. So the first historically black college and university in the southern United States. Atlanta University was the nation's first graduate institution to award degrees to African Americans in the nation, and the first to award bachelor's degrees to African Americans in the South. Clark College, founded in 1869, was the nation's first 4-year liberal arts college to serve African American students. The two consolidated in 1988 to form Clark Atlanta University. Atlanta University was founded by James Tate and Grandison Daniels. 2 years later, Edmund Asa Ware of the American Missionary Association was appointed the first president. Atlanta University was chartered in 1867 with the assistance of Oliver Otis Howard on the Freedmen's Bureau. He also appointed William J. White as educational agent of the Freedmen's Bureau. That happened on January 12th, 1867. White was the half-brother of founder James Tate and was the co-founder of the Augusta Institute in 1867, which would become Morehouse College. He served as trustee of Atlanta University in 1869 and which it was chartered in October 1867. So the 17th of October 1867, it offered its first instruction at the post-secondary level in 1869. Its first graduating class was in 1873, and it was awarded its first six-year bachelor's degrees in June of 1867. It offered its first instruction at the post-secondary level in 1869. Its first graduating class was in 1873, and it awarded its first 6 bachelor's degrees in June of 1876. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's a brief history of how Clark Atlanta University was founded as an HBCU. And HBCU simply stands for Historically Black College and University. So that's how Clark Atlanta University came to be. And of course, the reason for African Americans forming their own institutions of higher learning was because of racism. Racism, of course, that was occasioned by slavery. Slaves were brought in from Africa to the Americas and different parts of the world. But we're talking about the United States now. These early Africans in the United States felt cut off from the rest of the country. They felt disenfranchised. They didn't feel as though they were part of the society, part of American society, because they were treated as less than equal. So they thought it necessary to form a university of their own schools where they wouldn't be disturbed, their learning would not be disturbed. Of course, a lot of Americans were not happy with this development, those who are of a different race or different color, because they saw that if the African American or the black man or woman was educated, that would pose a threat to their dominance. And as you know, history has played out, and America is a bit more equal today than it was a century ago, 300 or 400 years ago. It's because the African American, or those who were at the helm of African American affairs, if you like, had the courage, let's say it that way, we had the courage to think differently and to act differently and encourage African Americans to go to school, to educate themselves, because education opens your eyes, it opens wide your eyes and your mind. It opens your eyes wide and your mind also. When you gain knowledge, the world is a totally different place. You see the world totally differently. It has its positives and its negatives, but overall, education is a good thing. It empowers, it empowers you. Okay, so that's it for Today in African History. I hope you enjoyed listening to this and learning one or two things about our history as Africans. And like I said, we learn about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to Africans and African Americans and Black British people, Black Europeans, Black South Americans, Black Asians, wherever you are based right now as an African person or African descended person. It's important that we learn about our collective history, because if we do not know about our history, we will not know the way forward. We've had great women and men in the past. We do have great men and women in the present, and we will have great men and women in the future. But the future starts today. We have to put things in place, the right environment for our kids, because they are the future. We're not going to be around forever. Our kids also will not be around forever. But we need to educate our kids with the right sort of education. Like I said in yesterday's video, the traditional educational system is flawed. So we need to combine that traditional educational system with the new way of educating ourselves as well as our kids, so that they are equipped to face tomorrow's world, which will be totally different from the world we have today. So go check out my video from yesterday where I talked about the need for our educational system to change. We don't have to change the system try to force the government to change the system, but we need to educate our own children. Just like the mother of Dr. Ben Carson. She took the education of her children into her own hands. And interestingly, something that I didn't mention yesterday was that she wasn't even educated. The mother of Ben Carson was not educated herself. So when she told her children to read books and summarize the books, she didn't even know whether they were lying to her or not. But she did it. In spite of all that, she did it. It was when they were much older that they realized that their mother wasn't literate, or not as literate as they thought she was. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so that's it for Today in African History. If you like what we're sharing, join us tomorrow for another edition of Today in African History. If you are here for the first time and you like what we're sharing, share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notification bell as well, so that you receive updates of our video uploads. If you're returning here, you liked what we've been sharing all these weeks and months, you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel so that this video can be pushed out to like-minded people and it will help our channel grow. Thanks for dropping by once again. Hasta la vista from here. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.